It started with footsteps. Not loud. Not obvious. But there. Soft scuffing behind me on quiet streets. The echo of steps that stopped when I did, then resumed just a little too late to be natural. At first, I thought I was imagining it. I had been working overtime for weeks. Sleeping terribly. Drinking too much caffeine. I chalked it up to anxiety. But then the strange things started happening. My apartment window, slightly open when I swore I shut it. My bedroom curtain shifted, as if touched. A book on my shelf turned upside down. My name etched lightly into the condensation on the bathroom mirror, faint, almost ghost-like. My boyfriend, Adam, was the first person I told. He was calm. Gentle. The way he always was. His hand stroked my back and he kissed my forehead and said, "You've been under a lot of pressure, babe. You sure it's not just stress?" I wanted to believe him. Desperately. But something inside me whispered louder than his reassurance. Something ancient and primal that said, "You are not alone." So I started locking everything twice. I bought pepper spray. I left the hallway light on. And when that didn't help, I installed a cheap motion camera facing my front door. The first 2 nights? Nothing. I felt foolish even checking the footage. But on the 3rd night, at 2:12 a.m., the camera picked up a figure. Just standing there. Not touching the door. Not knocking. Just standing outside. Watching. My skin went cold. I showed Adam, but he brushed it off. "It's probably some drunk guy who got the wrong building. This is why I didn't want you watching that true crime stuff." He meant well. I think. But something about the way he said it, like I was being dramatic, made me feel alone in my own fear. That's when I called a private investigator. Her name was Sonia Vega. Middle-aged. Sharp. No nonsense. She didn't laugh when I told her what was happening. She asked for access to the camera feeds and said she'd start watching the area personally. "Stalkers don't always make contact," she said. "Sometimes, the obsession is from a distance. The scariest ones are the ones who think they're protecting you." That chilled me more than I wanted to admit. A few days passed with no new activity. I tried to relax. Went on a date with Adam. He took me to this quiet rooftop bar where he kept brushing my hair behind my ear and smiling like I was the most delicate thing in the world. "You know I'd never let anything happen to you, right?" he said softly. "If someone was stalking you, I'd kill them myself." He laughed when he said it. I laughed too. But the words sat strangely in my chest. Like something sticky. The next morning, I found a letter under my door. It wasn't typed. It wasn't even sealed. Just a single sheet of paper with tight, almost trembling handwriting. "He's not who you think he is. Please be careful. I don't want to scare you. I've only ever tried to keep you safe. But he's dangerous. Ask about Santiago." No signature. No address. I froze. The name Santiago meant nothing to me. But the tone of the letter, it wasn't threatening. It felt almost pleading. I showed it to Sonia. She stared at it for a long time, then said, "We might not be dealing with just a stalker. This could be someone with history. Someone who knows your boyfriend." "But Adam's from Ohio," I said. "He moved here 2 years ago." She raised an eyebrow. "You're sure?" "That's what he told me." "Ever met his family?" I hesitated. "No. He says they're not close." "Any old photos?" "Just one. On his phone. I think." Sonia nodded slowly. "Let me look into this. But keep acting normal. Don't tell him you got this letter." That night, Adam stayed over. He held me a little tighter than usual. Said I seemed distant. His voice was soft, but his fingers pressed harder into my back than usual. I told myself I was imagining it. That my nerves were getting the better of me. But then I caught him staring at my camera setup in the hallway, his jaw tense. And when I looked up at him, he smiled, quick and rehearsed, and said, "Still feeling like someone's out to get you?" "I guess," I murmured. "Hopefully it's nothing." "Hope so too," he said. But something in his eyes said otherwise. I didn't sleep that night. Because for the first time I wasn't sure who I was afraid of. The shadow outside my door. Or the man already inside it. I started noticing more things after that. Subtle, almost imperceptible things that wouldn't mean much on their own, but together built a feeling I couldn't shake. Adam knew where things were in my apartment even when I hadn't shown him. He reached for the cabinet with my spare teacups without asking. He picked out my favorite hoodie from the laundry before I told him which one it was. I tried to rationalize it. He was observant, maybe. Or just lucky. But in the quiet moments, I could feel the paranoia twisting deeper. The worst part was that I didn't know if I was being paranoid, or finally starting to see clearly. Sonia called me 3 days later. "I dug into Adam's background," she said. "The documents he used to apply for jobs here check out, but something's off. His university enrollment history is redacted. And his social security number is newly issued, only about 3 years old. That's rare." "What does that mean?" I asked, heart pounding. "Could be identity change. Could be witness protection, but I doubt it. More likely, he's hiding something." "What about Santiago?" "I'm still working on it. It's a common name, but I have a few threads I'm pulling." My fingers shook as I hung up the phone. I looked over at Adam, asleep on my couch, his arms folded, jaw slack. He looked so normal. So good. And yet, my camera picked up another figure that night. Same time. Same posture. Same distance. Sonia enhanced the video. He was wearing a hoodie this time, but she zoomed in and caught a glimpse of his face. "Do you recognize him?" she asked. I didn't. But he looked sad. He wasn't threatening. If anything, he looked like he didn't want to be caught at all. She printed a still and gave it to me. "He's your stalker. But he's never made contact, which means either he's scared, or he's watching for a reason." That image haunted me. Especially when I caught him in person. It was a rainy Thursday evening. I was walking back from the corner store when I saw someone across the street, lingering beneath a street lamp. He didn't move when I paused. He just watched me. The same soft presence I'd felt for weeks. Not aggressive. Not looming. Just watching. I crossed the street toward him. He didn't run. He didn't speak. I stopped 2 feet away. "Why are you following me?" I asked. His eyes were pale green, and they locked onto mine with something like sorrow. "To protect you." My chest tightened. "From what?" He hesitated. "Not what." "Who?" "Adam?" I whispered. He nodded once. "You don't know him." "Not really." "You don't know him either." "I do," he said softly. "Or at least, I knew who he used to be." The air turned razor sharp. "Who is he?" "His name used to be Santiago Alvaro. He was wanted in Argentina. Disappeared 6 years ago. Changed everything, name, records, even his voice. But I recognized the scar on his collarbone. The one from a bar fight when he was 22. You're lying." "I wish I was." "Why should I believe you?" "You don't have to." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small envelope. "But if you want proof, you'll find it in here. And if you don't, throw it away. But keep your doors locked." He turned and walked away. Just like that. I stood in the street for a full minute before opening the envelope. Inside were 3 photographs. Grainy. Faded. But unmistakable. One of Adam, looking younger, thinner, angrier, being hauled out of a police station. Another of a Spanish-language news article with a blurry photo and a headline about a missing suspect in a string of violent assaults. The third was a morgue photo. A woman's body, pale and bruised. My stomach flipped. I shoved the pictures into my bag and ran home. When I walked through the door, Adam was already there. Cooking dinner. Smiling. "You okay?" he asked. "You look pale." "Yeah. Just the rain." "You sure?" He stepped closer. His hands reached for me. My mind screamed. But I smiled. Positive. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake beside him, stiff and frozen, while he breathed evenly, his hand resting lightly on my waist. I thought of the photographs. The scar. The name. The woman in the morgue. I wanted to believe he wasn't capable of it. That my Adam was real. But the pieces didn't fit. And for the first time, I wondered if the man lying next to me was already planning my ending. I stopped asking questions. I stopped mentioning the camera. I stopped talking about the figure at my door. I did everything I could to pretend things were normal because I needed time. Time to breathe. Time to think. Time to survive. But once you suspect someone of being a killer, it's impossible to unknow it. Every word Adam said sounded rehearsed. Every smile too wide. He'd brush my hair behind my ear like he always did, and I'd flinch internally, wondering if those hands had hurt someone else before. Sonia reached out again 2 days later. "I found a hit on Santiago Alvaro," she said. "Interpol file. Sealed, but I know someone who owed me a favor." The real Santiago had multiple charges. Battery, assault, and 3 counts of attempted murder. Fled the country after skipping a court date in Buenos Aires. He disappeared. Until now. "It's him, isn't it?" I asked. "I'm 90% sure." "What about the other 10? "That's the part where we need him to slip." "And that means you keep playing along." "And the stalker?" "I still haven't ID'd him, but he seems to know things." "If you see him again, don't run. Get him to talk." The next night, I left the envelope in my coat pocket and walked to the grocery store alone. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be followed, but I knew I would be. And right on cue, there he was, across the street, beneath the same crooked street lamp, hands deep in his pockets. I stopped halfway across and stared at him. "What's your name?" I asked. He hesitated before answering. "Julian." "Are you going to follow me forever?" "Not if you believe me." "And if I don't?" "Then I'll follow you until you're safe." I don't know why I didn't feel scared. Maybe because I already knew what real danger looked like, and Julian didn't fit that shape. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. Who'd been watching too long from the sidelines. "Why me?" I asked. He shrugged. "You looked kind. I saw you once at a cafe. You were helping an old man who dropped his wallet. You smiled like the world was still good. People like you disappear in the hands of people like him. You think I'm next?" "I know you are." My heart shuddered. "Why haven't you gone to the police?" "They need more. They always need more. And I'm not exactly a clean slate myself." "What did you do?" "Not murder. But I've made mistakes. I don't expect you to trust me. Just watch him closely." I nodded, and he vanished into the shadows. That night, Adam came over again. This time with wine and my favorite takeout. I didn't touch a bite. "You okay?" he asked. "Headache," I lied. "You've been having a lot of those lately." "Yeah. Must be the weather. Maybe you need a break. A weekend somewhere. You hate traveling." He smiled. "For you, I'd make an exception." I stared at him, and the memory of that mugshot, his younger self snarling through bloody teeth, flashed through my mind. I wondered how many other women he'd said that to. Sonia called the next morning. "He's planning something," she said. "We think he's purchased a burner phone and a prepaid rental car." "What does that mean?" "It means he's prepping to run. Or worse, take you with him." "What do I do?" "Stay put. Stay alert. And if anything feels off, get out. Julian thinks I'm next." "Then we won't let that happen." I hung up and walked back to the kitchen. Adam's coffee mug was sitting beside the sink. I reached for it, then froze. Inside, in the very bottom, was a faint pink tint. Not milk. Not sugar. A powdery ring. I stared at it for a full minute before dumping it out and rinsing the sink twice. When Adam came in, I smiled. "Thanks for the coffee," I said. "Tasted a little weird, though." He paused. "Weird how?" "Just off. Maybe the milk's old?" "Could be." He leaned in and kissed my cheek. "I'll get fresh stuff later." As he walked away, I locked my jaw to keep my hands from shaking. The illusion was breaking. And I wasn't sure how much longer I could pretend. Sonia told me to wear a wire. Not the kind from spy movies, just a tiny audio device clipped into the underwire of my bra, connected to a recorder tucked into the lining of my tote bag. "We need him to talk," she said. "About the alias. The travel plans. Anything." I hated it. The idea of baiting Adam. But something told me I didn't have a choice anymore. That same something also told me not to drink anything he handed me. When he invited me on a weekend trip to get away from the stress, I agreed with a smile and pretended not to notice the way he watched my face when he made the offer. "Just the two of us," he said, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. "No cameras. No weird neighbors. No stalkers. Just you and me." "Sounds perfect," I said. We were supposed to leave Friday afternoon. I packed a small overnight bag and made sure Sonia had the destination, the vehicle's make and license plate, and a tracking pin on my phone. Julian texted me once, "Are you sure you want to go?" I didn't respond. I couldn't. I needed to see this through. For 2 hours, we drove. Adam played soft indie music and talked about nothing, the weather, work, some new show he wanted us to watch. I nodded, asked questions, and laughed at all the right moments. But I didn't relax for a second. It was around dusk when we pulled up to a cabin in the woods. Secluded. No neighbors. The kind of place you went when you didn't want to be found. My stomach twisted, but I followed him inside, pretending I was excited. "It's so peaceful," I said, glancing at the boarded-up windows. "Perfect for clearing your head," he replied. He was already unpacking the wine. "You hungry?" "Starving." "Great. I'll cook. Just sit tight and let me spoil you." I sat on the couch and listened to him hum while he chopped something in the kitchen. When he offered me a glass of wine, I took it, pretended to sip, then dumped it into a houseplant when he wasn't looking. He returned a few minutes later, holding a plate of pasta. "This might be my best work yet," he said. "Did you cook much, back in Argentina?" I asked casually. He froze. "Just a flicker." But I saw it. "What? You said you used to live there, right? Or was that someone else?" He laughed a little too loud. "You're being weird." "Am I? You never ask about that stuff." "Guess I'm just curious." "No," he said. "You're suspicious." He set the plate down and stood over me. "You've been different lately." "What do you mean?" "Quieter. Distant. Distracted. Maybe I've been thinking too much." "About what?" I took a slow breath. "About whether I really know you at all." Silence stretched between us. Then he smiled. wide. Cold. You don't, he said. But that's okay. You don't need to. What happened to the women before me? I asked. He crouched down in front of me. They weren't like you. How? They didn't listen. I felt my pulse hammering in my ears. The wire was recording. It had to be. And what happens, I said softly, to women who don't listen? They disappear, he said. But you're special. You see me. You'll come around. And if I don't? Then I'll make you. He stood and turned away. That was when I ran. I didn't even think. I grabbed my bag, shoved the door open, and sprinted into the woods. I heard him shout my name, heard his footsteps pounding behind me, but I didn't stop. I ran until my lungs burned, until my vision blurred. Until I hit the edge of a road, and headlights blinded me. A car screeched to a halt. The door flung open. Julian. Get in, he shouted. I didn't hesitate. I jumped in and slammed the door shut as Adam burst from the trees behind me. Julian hit the gas. He knows, I said. He admitted it. He said I'd disappear. I heard, Julian said, glancing at the GPS tracker Sonia had planted. The cops are waiting at the drop point. I curled into the seat, shaking, watching Adam grow smaller in the rearview mirror. But his face didn't fade from my mind. It never would. The police were waiting at a roadside checkpoint 10 miles from the cabin. When Julian pulled over, I could barely breathe. 2 officers flanked the car immediately, 1 on each side. Julian raised both hands. She's safe, he said. She's the one you're looking for. Her name is Mia. I stumbled out of the car, still shaking, the cold air biting into my skin. One of the officers led me aside while the other radioed in backup. I handed over the recorder Sonia had given me. He confessed, I said, my voice barely audible. His real name is Santiago Alvaro. He admitted it. He said the others didn't listen. He said I'd disappear. The officer nodded. We'll get him. It took them 2 hours to reach the cabin. By the time they arrived, Adam, Santiago, was gone. But not far. They found him not even a mile from the site, crouched in a ditch beside the road, watching passing cars. The moment they approached, he bolted. But he didn't get far. They tackled him. Cuffed him. And when they pulled him upright, he smiled. Like none of it mattered. Like the whole thing had been a game. She'll come back, he told the officer. They always come back. I watched the footage later, at the station. I wanted to see if it was real. If he was real. If the man I had kissed, cooked for, slept beside, was truly the same one I'd seen in that grainy photo. And he was. Different smile. Same eyes. Cold. Unreadable. Julian sat beside me in the interrogation room, silent. How did you know? I finally asked. He ran a hand through his hair. I grew up near his hometown. My cousin dated him in university. She vanished after they broke up. Nobody cared. Police didn't follow up. He changed schools. Changed his name. But I never forgot his face. Why me? Because you looked like her. And I saw the way he looked at you. The way he watched, waited. I knew it was starting again. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Because I had no proof. Because I'd been in trouble before. Because I was scared. I nodded slowly. But you followed me anyway. I had to. The officers processed my statement and let me go by dawn. I stepped out into the early morning air and stood still, unsure of where to go. Julian stood next to me, hands in his pockets, not saying anything. Do you think he'll stay in prison? I asked. With your statement, the recording, and the international warrant? Yeah. He's not getting out. I exhaled. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like release. Like coming up for air after months underwater. So what now? I asked. Julian looked at me. Now you live. Safely. With someone who actually sees you. I looked at him then, really looked at him. The soft scruff on his jaw. The exhaustion under his eyes. The warmth behind his quiet words. I reached out, took his hand. Come with me? He smiled. Not a perfect smile. Not like Adam's. But real. Anywhere. And we walked into the sunrise. Two strangers pulled together by fear, stitched together by trust. There were no guarantees. No perfect endings. But I was alive. I was free. And I finally knew who I could trust. The one who watched from the shadows, not to trap me, but to keep me breathing long enough to save myself. That winter was quiet. For the first time in months, I didn't wake up with a pounding heart. The lock stayed locked. The window stayed shut. No new messages appeared under my door. The silence was unsettling at first, but I grew into it. Like healing skin that still stung when touched, but no longer bled. Adam, no, Santiago, was being held without bail. The press had gotten hold of his real identity within days. Expat from Argentina arrested in suspected serial assault case. New York woman breaks case open. My face wasn't in the news, but Sonia made sure the right people knew what I did. And Julian, he stayed. Not as a bodyguard, not as a stalker, not even as a protector. Just as someone who understood. We didn't become something overnight. We weren't lovers the next day, or even the next week. We were two people walking beside each other, uncertain of what we wanted, but certain of what we didn't want, more lies. You don't owe me anything, Julian said once as we walked through the snowy park. I know, I replied. But I still want you here. He smiled. Then I'll stay. He got a job fixing computers. I went back to writing, to painting, to having coffee in cafes without looking over my shoulder. And still, sometimes, I'd see him out of the corner of my eye, watching me. Not protectively. Just, gently. In case I needed him. One night, a month after the trial began, I had a nightmare. I saw Adam standing at the foot of my bed, smiling. Not doing anything. Just watching. When I woke, drenched in sweat, Julian was already sitting up beside me. Bad dream? He asked. I nodded. Do you ever think it'll go away? No, he said softly. But it'll get quieter. He pulled me into his arms, held me like I was something precious and breakable and real. And I believed him. The day of Adam's conviction, I sat in the courtroom. He didn't look at me. But I looked at him. Long and hard. He wore a suit, polished shoes, and that same empty smile. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of it. The judge read the verdict, guilty on all counts. 30 years to life. And just like that, Santiago Alvaro ceased to exist. On the courthouse steps, Sonia patted my shoulder. You did good, Mia. You too. Think you'll ever tell your story? I looked over at Julian, waiting by the car. I just did. That night, Julian and I made dinner together. Just pasta. No wine. We ate on the floor with music playing low. And then he kissed me, not like a savior, not like a man who knew my past, but like someone who wanted to be part of my future. You're not scared of what I used to be, he whispered. Only scared of what I'd be without you, I said. We didn't need perfection. We didn't need fairy tale endings. We just needed peace. And after everything, peace was the sweetest kind of victory. That spring, something in me shifted. I stopped jumping at every creak in the hallway. I stopped triple-checking my locks before bed. I stopped carrying pepper spray from room to room. It didn't happen all at once. But slowly, piece by piece, the fear drained out of my life and was replaced by something warm. Something steady. Julian and I started doing ordinary things together. Grocery shopping. Late-night walks. Movie nights where we actually finished the film instead of watching the shadows on the wall. But even in the quiet moments, I knew we were still healing. Both of us. He never pushed. He never asked for more than I could give. And over time, I gave him everything. We took a trip to the coast for my birthday. I hadn't been near the ocean in years. Watching the waves crash, holding his hand, I felt like someone who'd survived something no one else could see. "Do you ever think about who you used to be?" I asked him one night on the beach. "All the time," he said. "But I don't regret any of it. Not if it led me to you." I leaned my head on his shoulder. "You know, I thought you were crazy at first, right?" "I was," he said with a laugh. "Still am." "Well, thank you. For being crazy enough to care. Always." We didn't talk about Adam much anymore. His trial was over. His sentence was sealed. The prosecutor sent me updates occasionally. He'd tried appealing once, but the judge denied it without a hearing. There were too many victims, too many patterns, too much proof. But it wasn't just the justice system that buried him. It was time. Time buried his face in my mind. Time dulled the sharp edges. Time gave me permission to move on. And I did. One night, Julian fell asleep with his head on my lap. I brushed his hair back, watching the rise and fall of his chest, and I realized I loved him. I had for a while. I just hadn't said it out loud. So I whispered it then, soft and honest. "I love you." He didn't open his eyes, but he smiled. "Took you long enough." We built a life, piece by piece. I started painting again seriously. He opened a small repair shop that doubled as a community space. People liked him. Even the ones who thought he looked rough around the edges. But I knew the truth, he was the safest place I'd ever found. We weren't perfect. We argued about dumb things. We cried over old wounds. But every night, I fell asleep knowing that if anything came for me in the dark, he'd be the first one to stand between me and it. Not because he had to. But because he wanted to. And for the first time in my life, I knew what real love looked like. Not flawless. Not glittering. But steady. Loyal. Quietly fierce. The kind that watches from the shadows not to control, but to protect. And I'd take that over any fairy tale. Any day. A year passed. I didn't mark the anniversary out loud, but I felt it in my bones. One quiet morning, I woke up to find Julian already dressed, sipping coffee at the window, the soft light of dawn making his silhouette look like a painting. He glanced back at me with that same patient gaze, the one I used to think belonged to a stranger. Now, it was home. "Big day," he said. "Is it?" "The gallery opening. Don't pretend you forgot." I hadn't. I'd just been afraid to believe it was real. After months of coaxing from friends, I'd finally agreed to showcase my art again. Paintings that traced my journey, through fear, through fire, and into the light. That night, the gallery was full. Faces I hadn't seen in years. People I barely knew asking questions like, "What inspired this one, and is this based on a true story?" I gave the same answer every time. Yes. All of it. And Julian stood beside me, not saying much, but grounding me with every breath. Near the end of the night, an older woman pulled me aside. "Your work," she said softly. "It feels haunted. But also free." I smiled. "That's because it is." When we got home that night, Julian handed me a small wrapped box. "What's this?" I asked. "Something I've been holding on to." Wasn't sure if the time was right. I unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a ring. Simple, silver, with a tiny engraving on the inside. I saw you first. I looked up, eyes stinging. Julian, you don't have to say anything, he said quickly. I know we're not traditional. I know you've been through, yes, I said. Whatever it is, yes. He blinked. Even if I'm just offering a lifetime of bad cooking and cluttered desks? Especially if you're offering that. We laughed, loud, messy, beautiful. And when he slipped the ring on my finger, I didn't feel like I was being claimed. I felt like I was choosing. For once, I wasn't reacting to fear, or hiding from shadows, or bracing for the next blow. I was living. Fully. Freely. I still checked the locks sometimes. Still startled when someone walked too close behind me. But now I had a hand to hold through the panic. A voice to calm the storm. A heart that beat beside mine not out of obsession, but out of love. They say some scars never fade. That might be true. But even scars can become part of something beautiful. Part of a story worth telling. One where the girl wasn't just saved, she saved herself. And she got the ending she never thought she'd deserve. A life. A love. A second chance. And a man who would never stop watching, not from the shadows this time, but from the light. Always in the light.